Welcome to Chapter 3 of Wilson Rawls' book, Summer of the Monkeys. On my way home, I whistled and sang. I was so happy, I made up a little song. It went something like this. There are monkeys in the bottoms in those white little sycamores. There are monkeys in the bottoms, worth a million more. So come along, Rowdy, and let's get on the trail of $100 monkey. We'll catch him by the tail. Rowdy didn't seem to go along with my singing so well. He wouldn't even look at me. He just jogged along with his head down, as if he wasn't even there. I was the happiest boy in those Ozark Hills. I figured I was pretty close to being the richest boy, too. All I had to do was catch those darn monkeys. Right then, that didn't seem like any chore at all. Several times I stopped and tried to do a little arithmetic in the dust of the country road. Smoothing out a place with my hand, I'd use my finger as a pencil, and I tried hard to figure out just how much money those monkeys were worth. I didn't have too much trouble adding up the column of the $2 monkeys. It was that $100 monkey that I had trouble with. Every time I added him to the pot, something went wrong. I'd get so rich and excited, I couldn't figure anything right. Rowdy wasn't any help in the situation in the least. He wouldn't understand that I was going down on my knees in the middle of the road, fiddling around in the dust. He'd get curious, come over sniffing around and see what was going on. All he did was walk around my figures and mess things up with his paw prints until I couldn't tell how much the monkeys were worth. I finally gave up and decided I'd let Daisy figure it out for me. She was good with arithmetic. The road from Grandpa's store ran by our farm. As I came walking along, singing my head off, Papa called to me from the field where he was planting corn. I climbed up on the fence rail and walked over to him. Papa smiled and said, "Say, looks like you were right about those monkeys. Right after you left the store, I went to get Sally Gooden. And I think I saw a monkey in every sycamore tree down there. I can't understand it. As far as I know, I've never heard of any wild monkeys around here." "They're not wild, Papa," I said. "They got away from a circus train that was wrecked over on the railroad. Grandpa told me all about it. He said there were about 30 of them. They're worth a lot of money, too. The circus people are offering a reward." "So that's where they came from," Papa said, looking relieved. I'm glad to hear. I was beginning to wonder what was going on around here. "Did you say they're offering a reward for those monkeys?" "They sure are," I said, "and it's more money than I have ever heard of. They're willing to pay $2 apiece for all of the monkeys but one. And they'll pay $100 for that one." I really bore down on it when I told Papa about that $100 monkey. Papa just stood there for a second, staring at me, uttering a low whistle. He turned and looked at the river bottoms, and he said, "Say, that's a lot of money," he said. "I didn't know monkeys were worth that much money." "I didn't either, Papa," I said. "It beats anything I have ever heard of. All of that money for a bunch of old monkeys?" Papa frowned and said, "There must be more to this than we know about. I can never understand a fellow paying $2 for a monkey. I understand that. But who ever heard of anyone paying $100 for one?" "Papa," I said, "Grandpa says those monkeys have been trained for acts in the circus, and it takes a long time to train a monkey, and that's why they're so valuable." Papa was like me. He couldn't understand that $100 monkey and get it off his mind. "I don't care how long it takes to train a monkey," he said. $100 is $100. Why, you can't buy a good mule for that much money. If you talk just right, they might even throw in a harness." "There's a catch to this reward monkey business, Papa," I said. "The monkeys have to be caught alive and not harmed at all." "I see," said Papa, nodding his head. "I figured there was a catch like that." When it comes to making money like that, there's always a catch, J. Barry. It would be simple just to shoot those monkeys, but taking them alive? I don't know about that. It could turn out to be a pretty tough job. I don't care how tough it is, Papa, I said. You'll let me. I'd sure like to try if you'd let me. Believe me, I can catch those monkeys, every last one of them. Papa thought for a second and said, It may not seem as easy as you think it is. How would you go about catching them? With these, I said, reaching in my gunny sack for the traps. Grandpa fixed them up for me. He thinks they're the very thing for catching monkeys and not to hurt them. Papa took one of the traps and looked it over. He laughed and said, Leave it to your grandpa to figure out something like this. But golly, it does look like a pretty good idea. Yes, sir, it does. And it might just work. Handing the trap back to me, Papa said, You know, this time of year there's not much to do around the farm. We're just planting. And I can take care of that. You go right ahead. You have a go at those monkeys, Jayberry. Maybe you can catch them. You've caught everything else in these hills. I'll catch 'em, I said, very determinedly. You just wait and see. By tomorrow night I'll have a sack full of monkeys, and one of them will be that $100 monkey. He's the Jasper I'll be looking for. We'll see, said Papa, laughing. Glancing up at the sun, he said, Now you better get to the house and help your mother with those hens. I'd like to finish planting this field before the sun goes down. I thanked Papa for going along with me with the monkey business, and I strutted off to the house. So far, everything was working out fine. But there was one more little stump in the way. That was Mama. I was well prepared for her, though. After all, I've been living around Mama for 14 years, and a boy can learn a lot about his Mama in that length of time. I knew just what I had to do, and just what I had to say to wear her down. Papa had already told Mama about seeing the monkeys, but when I told her about that reward and that I intended to catch them, she did just exactly what I expected her to do. She flew straight up into a tizzy. Jayberry, she said in a hard voice, you're not going down to those bottoms to catch monkeys. Now that's all there is to it, and I won't have it. Why, I'd go crazy. Putting one of my half-dead, broken-leg looks on my face, I was ready for one of those mama boy go-arounds. But Mama, I argued, just think of how much money those monkeys are worth. You know I'd never get a chance to make any kind of money. Not like that. Maybe 10 or 15 cents here and there. For maybe an old possum or something. But, why, if I could just catch a few of them, or all of them, I could get myself a pony and a 22. I've been wanting it for so long. You wouldn't keep me from doing that, would you, Mama? I saw a hurt look spread across Mama's face. That made me feel bad. But I'd really been wanting a pony and a 22 so long, I just didn't want to give up. Mama came over to me and stared straight up into my suspendered ears. It seems like my old suspenders were always twisted, and Grandpa said I got my britches on too fast. Jayberry, Mama said, I know you've been wanting a pony and a gun, but I worry so much about you when you're down in those river bottoms. Just you and that old hound dog. Why, I never know what's liable to happen. Besides, it'd be practically impossible to catch a monkey in those bottoms. Monkeys like to climb, and some of those sycamore trees are 100 feet tall. You'd probably fall out of one of them and break every bone in your stupid body. Reaching for my traps, I said, Mama, I'm not going to do any tree climbing. I'm going to trap the monkeys. Mama frowned and looked at the traps. She looked over it and said, this is one of your grandpa's work, isn't it? I said he fixed them right up for me. Shaking her head, Mama said, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder who the boy is, you or your grandpa. Have you talked to your father about this monkey catching idea of yours? Seeing that Mama was giving in a little, I started talking 100 miles a minute. He said it was all right with him, Mama, I said. There's not much to do around the farm right now, just planting, and he said he could take care of all of that. Handing the trap back to me, Mama sighed and said, Well, between your father and your grandpa, it looks like I can't say no. But Jayberry, there's one thing I want understood. You are not going into those bottoms monkey hunting unless your father is close by in the fields. If something did happen to you, maybe between him and Rowdy, we would at least find your body. Mama could take a little bit of something like that and make it sound like a funeral had already started. She was good at things like that. Mama, I said very seriously, do all mamas worry like you do? I'm 14 years old. I'm almost a grown man, and you've been worrying about me ever since I was born. It makes me feel so no bigger than just 1 minute jump. I'm just so little. Mama smiled and said, I'm pretty sure all mothers do a little worrying about their boys. Right now, you're too little, too young to understand. But someday, you'll be married and probably have a boy of your own, and then you'll understand why I worry. Oh, no, I won't, Mama, shaking my head. I'll never get married. I can't understand women. Mama got kind of mad when I said that. Don't be silly, she snapped. That wasn't a very nice thing for you to say. Now, you go get the straw, and I need to set those hens. Feeling as good as if I'd just waded across the Mississippi River, I breathed a sigh of relief and lit out for the barn to get some straw. Besides Sally Gooden, there was one other thing we had around the farm that I thought we could surely do without, and that was those setting hens. Mama and Daisy could do anything in the world with those hateful old things, but I couldn't. Every time I got close to one of those cranky old sisters, she puffed up 10 times bigger than she actually was and started squawking and pecking. By the time that we had the old gals taken care of, my hands were hurting all over. Mama and I were back to the house, and I was rubbing some Raleigh salve on the hen-pecked hands when I thought of my little sister. Mama, where's Daisy? I asked. I want to tell her about the monkeys. I think she's up in her playhouse, Mama said. I saw her go up the trail a while ago. Taking the sack of candy that Grandpa had given me, I stared up into Daisy's playhouse. I was almost there when I heard her laughing and talking. Leaving the trail, I eased around and peeked through the bushes to see what was going on. A small sunbeam had bored its way through the evergreen overhead, and the playhouse was bathed in a warm, radiant glow. Daisy was sitting on the ground with her back against the trunk of the huge old red oak. Her crutch was laying beside her. As usual, her little friends were all around. Chipmunks were scampering and the birds were singing. A chirping squirrel was perched on the arm of the cross. His flicking tail was keeping perfect time to the music of the hills. A big fat bunny was curled up in Daisy's lap, just as though he belonged there. As I watched, a tiny little wren dropped down from the branches of the red oak and lit on Daisy's crippled old leg. She smiled and started cooing at it. Everything looked so peaceful and happy. I hated to disturb them. Just before stepping out of the bushes, I coughed to let them know I was coming. The instant I showed my face, you'd have thought a booger man had showed up and scared them all. The bunny hopped down, the squirrel jumped, the birds flew, the chipmunks faded into the ground. It always made me mad when these silly things did that. I would never have harmed any of Daisy's little friends. Old Rowdy wouldn't have hurt them either. And that was just saying something. Feeling hurt all over, but I let on that I wasn't. I handed the sack of candy to Daisy and said, "Guess what's happening?" Daisy always seemed about one jump ahead of me. Smiling, she said, "I already know about the monkeys, Jayberry. Papa told Mama and me about them when he brought Sally Gooden back from the bottoms." Trying to act very important, I shoved my hands down my pockets and I said, "Those monkeys are worth quite a bit of money. I'm going to catch them, and I'm going to get a pony and a gun that I've been waiting for a long time." Every time I mentioned something to Daisy, she naturally figured I intended to kill and skin it. Frowning, she said, "Jayberry, I know you've been wanting a pony and a gun, but isn't there some other way you could get them? I've seen pictures of monkeys, and they're the cutest little things. I just couldn't stand to think of you skinning one of them. How would you like it if something caught you and peeled your skin off? You wouldn't like it one bit, would you? "Oh, Daisy," I said, "you girls are so funny. Who ever heard of skinning a boy? I'm not going to skin those monkeys. I'm not even going to hurt them. I'm going to catch them alive. They can't be hurt in any way." Daisy sighed a sigh of relief and said, "Well, I'm glad you're not going to hurt them. Every time I walk by that old smokehouse and see all those little skins you have stretched there, I just shiver all over." "Well, you can stop shivering," I said. "I promise I won't harm one hair on those monkeys' heads." "How do you know so much about monkeys anyway?" Daisy asked. "Papa said he couldn't remember any wild monkeys being around here before." "Well, they're not exactly wild," I said. "They got away from the circus train that had wrecked over on the railroad. Grandpa told me all about it. He even fixed some traps for me so I could catch them without hurting them." "That's just like Grandpa," Daisy explained. "He's always telling you how to catch little animals, isn't he? Surely, Jay Berry, you don't get any fun out of it, do you?" "Aw, Daisy," I said, "what do you think animals are for anyway? Just to look at? They're supposed to be hunted. How else do you think that we have food? And that a boy would have any fun in these hills?" Shaking her head and looking very disgusted with me, Daisy said, "Jay Berry, you should have a talk with the old man of the mountains. I think he would tell you a few things. Being a boy, though, I doubt you would understand or listen to one word he had to say." There it was again, the old man of the mountains. Daisy had mentioned him several times, and I hadn't paid much attention. After all, she lived in one of those girl kind of worlds was chock full of strange old men, fairy tales, angels, spirits, knights in shining armor, and everything else you can think of. I just figured that she wasn't going to make any sense of it. She was making it all up. But Daisy had a way of making things sound so real that sometimes I wasn't sure if it was stories or not. Daisy did this by telling a good story. She was the best storyteller in the Ozark Hills. It wasn't only the stories she told, it was the way she told them. She would get real serious, and her eyes would get real big and starry looking. She would talk in a whisper and go through all kinds of motions, and by the time she was finished with her story, my hair would be standing straight up, and I wouldn't know what to believe. "Daisy," I said, "you've been telling me about this old man of the mountains for a long time. Who is he anyway?" "Oh, he's just a friendly old man," she said in a very purty voice. "He comes around every once in a while and visits with me." "He does," I said. "Well, when was the last time you saw him?" "Why, just this morning, right up here in my playhouse. Didn't you?" "No, I didn't. What's the old man's name?" "Meh, I don't know what his name is," Daisy said. "I've never asked. I just call him the old man of the mountains." "Well, where does he live?" I asked. "Way back in the mountains somewhere," Daisy said. "Is he a farmer?" I asked. "No," Daisy said. "He doesn't do any farming. He doesn't have time." "Doesn't have time," I said. "What does he do?" "He takes care of the hills," Daisy said. "Takes care of the hills," I explained. Why, the hills don't need no taking care of. Who ever heard of a thing like that?" "That's all I know," Daisy said. "There are a lot of things in these hills that need taking care of. What would happen to all the little animals, the birds, the flowers, if somebody didn't look out after them? That's what the old man of the mountains does. He walks through the hills looking out for everything." I laughed out loud. "Oh, Daisy, you're just making this up. I don't believe there's an old man of the mountains." A frightened look flashed over Daisy's eyes. Placing a finger over her lips and all around, she said, "Shh. Don't say things like that, Jay Berry," she said. "Don't you ever say that you don't believe in the old man of the mountains. He hears everything in these hills, and he'll cause you to have bad luck." At that moment, Daisy couldn't have said anything that would have had more effect on me. With all those monkeys around, I had to have my chances with the best luck. so I could make some money. I'm sure I didn't want to have any bad luck. Besides, there are a few bad luck things that I believe in. Things like hearing a screech owl at midnight, or tripping over a broom, or dropping a water bucket in the well. Those are signs of bad luck. Now, maybe there was an old man of the mountains, and maybe he would cast a bad luck spell on me, and maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he'd get all fired up if I said I didn't believe in him. Anyhow, I wasn't taking any chances. Daisy, I said, is there really an old man of the mountains? And can he cause people to have bad luck? I peered at my little sister. Looking at me as if I didn't have any sense at all, Daisy said, why, certainly, J. Berry. There's an old man of these mountains, and he knows everything. Didn't you know that? No, I said I didn't. With all that bad luck talk, Daisy saw that she had me worried, and she took advantage of it. Getting very serious, she took another look around and started to whisper. Sit down, J. Berry, she said. I'll tell you about the old man of the mountains. I didn't want to, but I sat down by her side and listened while she went on with her story. J. Berry, she said, the old man of the mountains is very, very old. He's as old as these hills. His hair is white as snow and hangs down over his shoulders. He wears a long white robe and sandals on his feet. And every time I see him, he has a crooked stick in his hand. He can just point that stick at something and it would disappear. Daisy, I interrupted in a low voice, is this old man a ghost or something? Oh no, J. Berry, she whispered. He doesn't even look like a ghost. He has a kind and gentle face. He looks sad, though, like maybe he feels sorry about something. I think he feels sorry for all those little animals. I thought that girls were the only ones who felt sorry for animals, I said. How come this old man feels sorry for them? Because it's his job to look out for them, Daisy said. You see, J. Berry, when God made these hills, he needed someone to take care of the animals and the birds and the flowers. So he gave that job to the old man of the mountains. All he does is walk around through these hills and take care of things. Well, what does the old man do in wintertime when it snows and everything goes to sleep? I asked. What does he do then? Daisy had an answer for everything. Why, he goes to sleep too, she said. That's the only time he gets to rest. He works so hard through the summer that he's very tired when winter comes. So he just goes to sleep and rests till spring, like all the animals do. Daisy stopped to catch her breath before going on. He's a wonderful old man, she said, and if you're good and believe in him, you'll always be happy and you'll never have bad luck. But if you're mean and you hurt little animals, you had better look out. He'll just point that stick at you, and I'm sure you'll have bad luck. Daisy had me so shaken up by now, I hardly knew what to believe. Just to be on the safe side, I said, when you see this old man again, do you know? She said, oh, I never know when I'll see him again. He just comes around any time he wants. Well, next time you see him, I said, getting to my feet, you tell him that I'd like to meet him and shake hands with him. Along about then, I would have shaken hands with a centipede if I thought it would have helped me catch a monkey. Shaking hands, shaking her head, and looking very sad, Daisy said, J. Berry, I don't know if the old man of the mountains would see you or not. You've been a pretty bad boy. You know, you're all the time catching little animals. The old man of the mountains doesn't like anyone who does that. But every boy in these hills catches things, I said. Why, the way you make it sound, this old man was never like me. He would never like me at all. Oh, he could. He could like you. He could like all the boys in the world just as much as he likes me. But they'd have to leave the little old animals alone, or he wouldn't. Well, I didn't know what to do. Daisy had me pretty well convinced there was an old man of the mountains, and I was going to have bad luck. Now, if he didn't like boys who caught wild animals, and could cause them to have bad luck, boy, I was in for it. And that's all there was to it. Thank you for joining us for Chapter 3 of Summer of the Monkeys.